Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Change Your Mind podcast, where we explore personal development, spirituality, and science. I'm so excited for my guest today. We are going to talk all about metaphysics, which you know I totally geek out about. First, couple quick announcements. Head over to the links in the show notes. You are going to find ways to connect with my amazing guest, ways to connect with me. You'll find a link to my book, Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality. It was endorsed by 3 people from The Secret. That's Marcy Shimoff, Michael Beckwith, Bob Doyle. It was also endorsed by Anita Morjani, who wrote Dying to Be Me, and John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. So go check it out. It's in paperback, ebook, audiobook. Let's see what else. There's ways to sponsor the podcast, ways to find my courses. And as always, this podcast is part of the Los Angeles Tribune Podcast Network. Sounds kind of weird that a newspaper has a podcast network, but we have a huge personal development branch, spearheaded by a woman who was Tony Robbins' EVP of production for 18 years. We are putting on amazing events. I was just on stage with Les Brown and Dr. Joe Vitale and Joseph McClendon and Sharon Lechter and Jim Quick, like amazing, amazing thought leaders. So come join us, be a part of the community. I can't wait to see how we grow. What if the one thing keeping you stuck is the way you think? Welcome to Change Your Mind with Kris Ashley, the podcast where science meets spirituality and mindset becomes your most powerful tool for transformation. I'm Kris Ashley, author of Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality, trainer, speaker, and lifelong seeker. For years, I battled trauma, depression, anger, chronic illness, low self-worth, and the weight of old stories. Until I discovered how to rewire my mind, reconnect with my divine nature, and consciously create a new reality from the inside out. This show is here to help you do the same. Each week, we explore the intersection of personal development, spirituality, and science, diving into topics like healing, emotional mastery, entrepreneurship, resilience, and the quantum nature of reality. You'll hear powerful stories, gain practical tools, and real conversations that will help you change your perspective, get unshakable confidence, and live the vision your soul has always known is possible. Whether you're navigating a major life shift, building your dream business, or seeking deep healing and alignment, you're in the right place. So if you're ready to break through, take back your power, and create a life on your terms, this is your moment. Let's break free from the patterns that hold us back, awaken to who we truly are, and rise. Your transformation starts now. All right. So with me today, I have Karen Endsley. So Karen is the co-host of the podcast Skeptic Metaphysicians for 4 years, and she's hoping to pique people's curiosity and give them a taste of what's out there with the show. She's also one of 3 founders of New Reality TV, which is helping broadcast all of these messages out into the world. So welcome, Karen. I'm so happy you're here.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah. So I always start all of my episodes off the same way. And that is by asking my guests, what is their origin story? So what is it that put you on this path of getting these messages out into the world?
Gosh, well, it's kind of combined, and it's hard because unfortunately my co-host and my life co-host sick in bed today. But it started, really, he actually started the whole podcast. And he was going through his own spiritual awakening. Everyone had their struggles during COVID. It affected him very strongly as well. And he had to kind of take a few steps back, do some deep dives, and really kind of restructure who he is. He wasn't liking who he saw in the mirror. He worked with a therapist. She got him into meditation. And he previously, in his youth or, college days, a little bit after that, really was diving deep into all of these. In fact, he was even part of a coven. So he was familiar with the space, but he had taken a 20-year break from it. So getting back into meditation got him really back into all of this stuff. And he started reaching out to people that he had been in contact with before and having conversations with them, and created a podcast to kind of get some of these messages out. Well, some of the times he would have some people that we both knew, and I would pop in and join. And then it just was so much fun. We decided to go ahead and team up and be both the hosts of the Skeptic Metaphysicians. So that's kind of how that started. And it's been an incredible journey. We've talked to, a couple hundred people, and heard their stories and what they do and what their goals are. And the thing that we've found is that I would say pretty much every person that we've spoken to has the singular goal or mission to help spread love, raise the vibrations, make the world basically a better place, one person at a time, one session at a time, however they can. And we knew that, our podcast was great. It was doing, very well. We're getting these messages out, but we needed to amplify that. So that was pretty much why we started New Reality TV. It's a way that we can broadcast these messages on a much larger level than we could with our podcast. We have audio, video, live streaming. It's a streaming library. We also have a 24-hour or 24/7 broadcast. So it really gives a lot of opportunities for people to hear these messages that are so important.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And you've so generously offered to put my other show on your streaming network. We've been talking about that. Mm-hmm. So I want to know more about your journey, though. Like, were you skeptic when you first started the show? Was all of this new to you? Did you have a background in it?
So really skeptic, I was not. I just grew up always knowing that there's something, whether I felt it or I'd have dreams ever since I was a kid, just kind of knowing. I kind of called it this gentle companion. I never felt alone. I just don't think I could tell you exactly what it is that I was feeling, but I just always knew. And having different experiences when, loved ones passed, or when I've really needed something, things that happen, you just can't explain that away scientifically. And even if you could, I kind of look at it in a way that's, you could say it's a miracle, or you could say it's a coincidence. Or just more fun. I like the miracles. I like to joy and the love and the light that way.
That's really cool. So has like interviewing all of these people changed either of your opinions? Like, yeah.
Yes. So I always thought I was pretty open-minded, but I didn't realize how much more open-minded I could be. And kind of my favorite example of this is a couple of years ago, we were looking at our schedules, and we had an interview coming up with a gentleman who claimed to have a relationship with Bigfoot. Actually, a family of them, big feet, Bigfoots, whatever the case. And we went over some audio recordings, and we're listening to this, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. This is going to be out there. Yeah. And I'm like, is he drinking? Was he just like hollering into the microphone? So we're kind of, joking about it. And I have to preface this by saying that our podcast, it's fun. We don't take ourselves seriously at all. We do take the topic seriously, and we don't disparage any of our guests, regardless of what I just said. But we like to have fun, because we have learned that if people are laughing along, they're actually learning a lot more, because they absorb it so much more. So getting back to Bigfoot. So we start the interview, kind of a little tongue-in-cheek, where's this going to go, And by the end of the interview, or throughout the interview, he goes on to explain how Bigfoot is actually not just this creature that hides that nobody can find, but an interdimensional being. And he goes through this whole story of watching this family grow up and having this relationship with them, and how they're just kind of mischievous and fun. And by the end of the episode, we hung up, and I looked at Will and I said, I never would have thought that you could say, well, yeah, Bigfoot, this thing that hides, no way, but an interdimensional being, that I can get behind. Like, wow, I really have, become even more open-minded and more willing to accept things that I don't understand, and really look at them and take them not just at face value, but to make that deeper dive. And I love it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I remember hearing that so long ago, that Bigfoot was an interdimensional being. It was the same thing. It was like, oh, that feels right. Like, that tracks. I can get behind that. That's so cool. So, I mean, have you had any experiences? Like, I know that there's like a lot of healers and, just all kinds of healers in the community. Like, have you had any personal experiences with any of that? Like, any miracles happening in your life because of it?
Oh gosh, growing up, I've had all kinds of things. So when I met Will, and this was, almost 20 years ago, I had a house in Orlando, and it was an old house. It was built in 1925. So, it's had a lot of different lives go through there. It's a triplex. And I would hear noises, and I would have a dog that would look into the bathroom in the dark and just bark sometimes a lot and then not. And so I'm like, all right. I remember watching, I think it was Oprah, and she had a guest talking about if you think your house is haunted, you need to welcome them to stay if they're nice, but tell them they cannot, wreak havoc in your home. So I did that. Okay, if you're out there, this is where's your home first. You are welcome to stay here, but don't be mean and don't freak me out. That's pretty much. And things started to change, and I named her Lila. I decided, and there would be little ways where she would show me that she was there. So if I didn't acknowledge her for a while, things would happen. Like one example was I was a teacher, and at Christmas, kids would give you these gifts, and I had gotten this really great pen, which I love. So of course, I promptly lost it, and for like a month, I couldn't find this pen. And then one day I get up in the morning and I'm going to, get dressed, and I go to my dresser like I do every single day. And on top of it is my pen, but it was taken apart and lined up in a straight line. And I lived.
Oh my God, I have goosebumps.
I lived alone. I had a dog with no thumbs. So I think it was Lila. So I would have to acknowledge her, and then things would be fine. But she also helped me. And best example is one of my favorite examples. So the first Christmas we were dating, they gave me this beautiful diamond bracelet, and I wore it all the time. And so, of course, like the pen, I promptly lost it. I get to work one day, and it's not on my wrist, and I'm panicking. So luckily, I lived really close to the house, and I fly back just in time to see the lawn guy, and he's mowing the grass right by where I parked. And I'm like, oh God, this thing probably got chopped up in the lawnmower. No, I would have heard that, So we go through this talk. So I start looking through the house, and I went back and forth, first outside, checking the porch, looking the floor, inside, looking under cushions, which I wouldn't have done anything on the couch between, 8 in the morning and when I went to work, but I'm looking, back and forth to the house at least 3 or 4 times. And finally I'm like, all right, Lila, I need you to help me find this bracelet. Because at this point I'm thinking I'm just going to have to buy another one because I can't tell him I lost it.
Yeah.
All this money now. So I'm like, Lila, I need your help. So I look around a little bit more and I give up. And I open the door to go outside, and on the floor, the welcome mat, in a perfect spiral circle is my bracelet.
That's so cool.
Out of the house, searching, looking down the whole time. So yeah, so there are little things like that.
That's so cool.
And then through the podcast, one of my favorite anecdotes is I don't have them like this today, but I paint my nails a certain way, and I do it because when I was a little girl, I used to go to Ecuador, and this we're talking like in the 80s or 70s actually, but a very popular way that the ladies there painted their nails was called media luna, which means half moon. So it's kind of like it's like a French manicure, but if the white part was extended all the way down, so it's like a little half moon at the bottom, but then it's in different colors. So 99% of the time I do my nails that way. And so we were interviewing a medium. And before the interview, she said, "Oh, Karen, your grandmother's here." And I'm like, "Okay, that's nice." And I didn't really ask about that because we try not to get too personal, at least not prior to the interview, because we don't want anything to be, I don't know, skewed anyway. And we're not talking about us on the podcast anyways. So we go through the interview, we chat with her about, her experience and what she's done. And then at the end, we hang up, and Will says to her, "Well, is her grandmother still here?" He's like, "I have to know." She's like, "Yeah, she's here. She's right behind you guys." And she described someone that, it kind of could be anybody's grandmother. So I'm like, yeah, okay, And then she said, "Well, she has a message for you. Something, okay, your daughter's going to be fine," or something very.
Yeah.
And she says she wants you to know she likes your nails. And it was just like this, like you and me. You don't see my hands. I hadn't talked about my nails. And if randomly I would not have said anything about my grandmother. And I don't talk about that anyways, really. So.
Yeah.
Look up, or it was like, and of course the tears, grandma. But so little things like that just are those little miracles, that prove to me time and time again that this all is real.
That's really, really cool. So, I mean, I believe we all have these gifts, and some people are just more tapped in. I guess, how do you navigate? Because I've had, between this and my other show, Beyond Reality, I've had a lot of mediums on, and a lot of animal communicators and stuff. And it's sometimes they say things that are so right on, and sometimes it's just so off. It's how do you navigate who's real and who's kind of BSing you?
Well, we have, a fairly decent vetting process typically. Either it's a referral. Usually they're referrals from people that we trust, but we do have people that'll come on and through our application just from the website or whatever, sign up to be guests. So we'll well, we, meaning will research them pretty well. And the one kind of fun part, one of the fun parts about our podcast is that when we come in, he's done all this research, and I don't even know who we're talking to. And we do that intentionally because then I have more of the view of the audience. And so I can ask those questions that just pop into your mind without knowing what, I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So he vets them pretty well. But yeah, there have been some times when people say something that just doesn't, feel right, or and we have asked people before, so were you drinking when this happened? I mean, it's like, how do you know? How do you know? Not to be argumentative, we're not trying to prove anybody wrong, but we'll ask them questions to get more of them proving that they're not wrong. Does that make sense? So it's, but it's all very different depending on the experience, depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah. I really like that Will does all the research and you come in not knowing much. Like when I do it, so I get most of my guests through PR agencies. I actually just finally put them in a spreadsheet. There's 26 that I work with. It's crazy. And like I'm literally booked. We're recording this in March and I'm booked through August because it's just like so many people. But I've stopped doing a lot of research on them. Like I'll read the little bios from the PR agents. So I know, if it's going to be a good fit or like, but I like the idea of like coming in blind and we're just having a conversation. Like I like it to be like, oh, we're just grabbing a cup of coffee and having a conversation and people kind of happen to be eavesdropping. Right. So I love that you do that, but like, it's cool that Will has the background. So it's like you get both.
It is. It's the best of both worlds because he does the vetting, and he knows it's not someone that's just whatever. And we have had on occasion one or two people that just are there to sell their books or something like that. And we actually not really speak in the podcast because that's not what we're about. We will always give people a chance at the end to talk about, hawk your wares. What do you got? But that's never the point. And we don't want our listeners to think that, because you know how they are. People are very loyal to you. They trust you when they've been following you for a few years. And we don't want to say, hey, if we don't know this stuff is genuine, if we can tell this guy's just for sale, we don't want them to think that we're, what's the right word? Like supporting that or saying, yeah, he's good if we don't know.
Yeah, totally.
We owe it to them to really kind of do our homework too.
So how does Will, okay, so if Will's like researching someone, like how does he decide, and it wasn't like through a referral, how does he decide like, okay, this is good?
Well, he'll if it's through like, we'll get people's PR people will reach out to us. And we'll always check out the website. We'll look at the reviews, and he's very good about that. We'll look and see if there's something of substance, and is that something that's going to fit with what we're talking about. We don't want people that are just, sensationalizing things, clicks. It has to be something also that's within the scope of what we talk about, which really there's a lot within the scope of what we talk about. But we also, if we've just talked to maybe 2 channelers in the last 2 or 3 months, we're going to, probably hold off talking to another channeler for another several months because we don't want it to be the same thing over and over again. Yeah.
So what's your favorite topic to talk about with people?
Love.
I love that.
I meditate a lot, and I remember one time, I get the downloads, and just started popping into my head love, and how I think that the worst thing in the world is that what causes all the anger and the angst and the pain is lack of love. But I truly believe that it's not that it's the lack of love, it's people not realizing what love is, because you fixate on a type. It's either, romantic relationship or maybe like a mother and a child. But there's so much more to it than that. There are so many more types of love. And I was having this image of this little like toddler running through the ocean in the shallow water, and it's splashing and it's sunny and it's beautiful, and this kid's just laughing until someone pulls him out. What he's experiencing in that moment running through the water, that's love. He's loving the feel of the sand on his feet and the water and the wind blowing through his hair and just that feeling of that happiness. And there are so many different types of love. And I want people to really be able to look around, because if you look around, you can see these things and you can feel them. And that loneliness or that anger, that angst might subside a little bit. I think that would help change a lot of things.
You lit up when you were talking about that. I want you to know that. Like I could just like feel your love through the screen. That's such a beautiful image. And yeah, you're totally right. There's so many, like, how amazing is it that we live in this universe where like love exists, right? and like it's the foundation for everything. You know what I love about that too is it's like every person who's had an NDE and came back or gone through like past life regression hypnosis where they're between lifetimes, like that's the thing that they come back. They're like, there's no judgment. There's nothing. It's just pure unconditional love and like support.
And you could feel it. And I remember having this dream once where I was in this really dark, just black. And all of a sudden this little guy pops up and he's kind of like a, I don't know, like a balloon, like I don't even know how to describe him, just a white little like Stay Puft Marshmallow kind of balloony guy. And I don't know how that sounds so weird. I don't know how the conversation between he and I started, but he looks at me and he's like, don't you see it's about love and it's about joy? And as he would do that, like a tree would light up and something else would light up. And we ended up being in this beautiful forest of like these purple and green and beautiful, like iridescent trees. And he was just so in love with the feeling of joy and love. You know, and I can, like you said, you get into it and it's like right now my hairs are standing up on my arms and I feel that like little bubbliness because it's really wonderful. And if we can take the time to think about something, even if you love learning or love, you know, the smell of books, that makes you happy. I mean, that's a type of love, and just put yourself in that moment for a while and let yourself feel that, you know, and then you'll find ways to get yourself in that moment in other ways and feel it more and more.
Yeah, totally. Because it's like the law of attraction, right? Like when you're vibrating at that frequency of love, more things that make you feel that way come into your life.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we started talking about this because I asked what your favorite topic on the show was. So like how, like when guests come and talk about love, like what, I guess like, I don't want to say like what angle are they talking about it from, but like what, like how are they talking about love on the show? Because I was so surprised by your response. I thought you were going to say like, oh, mediums or like Bigfoot people, but like that's like the coolest answer you could have given. So like how does that translate on the show?
Oh gosh, in so many different ways, because ultimately what we, like I said earlier, what we had discovered is everyone really wants to help people. You know, they're putting out these messages because they want to help people. So there's always that kind of underlying vibration. But I remember speaking with, I don't know if you've met or interviewed Angie Hippel, but she channels a collective of 350,000 angels. And she went into the trance and like I just started crying. I mean, I'm a crier, but it was so intense, and you just felt it. Or just gosh, this man was talking about reverse readings. This is one of Will's favorite interviews, and he's this guy, and I think he's in either New Zealand or Australia, and he does all of those recordings, and he'll play them backwards, and he's like talking about how we communicate to each other on a subconscious level, which is very, very different than we communicate consciously through our words. And he was talking about his, like, I think 4-year-old daughter, and she's taking a bath, and she's trying to reach this toy, and she can't reach it. And he was recording this, and you know, when he played it back, he heard her saying, "Help me!" You know, it's like, "Dave, help me." His name was Dave. "Help me!" But just the way he was talking about what he was doing and with his daughter, and you could just tell that it was loving, and it's always there's always that underlying love. I don't know, sometimes it's not necessarily expressed during the interview or spoken about, but you feel it, because that's what everyone that we've met at least is trying to do. We were actually going to sunset the podcast a couple of years ago because it was taking so much time. You know how much time it takes. You know, you got to schedule, you got to interview, you got to edit, you got to post, you got to market. And Will was doing all of that. And so he was not having any time with the family. So, you know, like, okay, you know, he's kind of gotten through his stuff that he needed to get through emotionally, psychologically. It's done its job. It's time to let it go. But we're like, well, let's just Google it and see if anyone's, you know, ever even listened to it. So I look it up, and I found what we were very surprised. There was, I don't know if it was Apple or one of the sites, and it had like all these pages of reviews that we didn't even know existed. And they were great. I mean, they were all 5-star reviews, and people had written paragraphs about what this show meant to them. And I'm like, we're just talking to people. We're not, you know, we're not special. But one thing that stood out, this one guy was, I think he was a UPS driver, and he's talking about how, you know, he always felt a little bit different and all of this, and like so many people in this just getting to the space feel. And the last thing he said was, "Thank you for helping me feel normal."
Aww.
And we're like, well, gosh, we can't, you know, if we're helping one guy, we can't quit this. And
Aww.
And because of love, because of maybe us, the love that we have wanting to help people, or the love he felt, feeling normal, the universe loving that interaction, next thing you know, Will finds this software that cuts the editing time in half, and it all just falls into place. And I think it's all that universal energy of love. If your heart is in the right place, then things will work. They might not work how you want them to or how you expect them to, but they'll work out the best for you.
I love all those stories so much. And I couldn't agree more. It's like when your heart's in the right place and you have an intention, and then you just like let go of how it's going to happen, the universe will surprise you. It'll move mountains for you, especially if it's like on your path you're meant to be on. But wait, I want to ask about that guy that was talking about playing things backwards. So he recorded his daughter reaching for a toy, but then played it backwards and he could hear her voice asking for help. Is that what it was?
Yes, and I said on support, she would have been speaking. She was like 2, she was babbling. Like she wasn't forming words to try to reach for the toy. And when he played that back, the words, help me, came through. And he was
That's so cool.
And we could hear him. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, that's what that said. It was, you could totally hear it. It was really, really interesting.
That's cool. You're gonna have to send me that episode because I want to watch that. That's really cool. I just appreciate. I feel like you're someone who just sees the good in all people too. Like the fact that you're like, everyone just wants to help people, and like you're seeing the love even if it's not spoken in the episode. And that's such a beautiful gift and such a beautiful way to go through the world, right? To see the good in people, because we always have a choice how we see people.
And it's not easy. It takes practice. And one of the things that really helped me to look at things this way was actually a book I read by the Dalai Lama, The Art of Happiness. And he's talking there specifically about you don't know what anybody else's situation is. So if you're driving in traffic and someone just cuts you off and you're like, and like honking at them and whatever because they're just being a jerk, maybe their child is dying in the hospital. Maybe, the woman is pregnant and about to give birth in the car. You just never know. Maybe they're being a jerk. But maybe they have these extenuating circumstances that you have no idea. And instead of being angry, you should be glad you're not that situation and hope them the best. And so it's like I go through it. At first it was tough, man. But now it's kind of more, it's like a habit, it takes however many times of doing it over and over again. And once you do that, driving is so much less stressful. You get out of that angsty feeling and that anger feeling, and it is kind of like, oh, well, whatever. Things just, it rolls off your back a little bit more. Maybe you're not thinking, well, what are they, situation are they in, but it just doesn't bother you as much anymore.
I love that so much. That's like such a beautiful way to just look at everything. So like, how has that helped you with like personal relationships too? Because I imagine like it flows into that as well.
It does, and it's almost harder sometimes with personal relationships because you have that relationship established first, and you've had those arguments and those disagreements and stuff in the past. But I kind of look at them like Facebook. Everybody puts their favorite pictures on Facebook, and you think, oh my God, they're just like traveling the world, and their kids are perfect, and they have a happy life, and I wish I was like them. But they don't put the crap up there. And I mean, most people, some people do, but most people don't. I have to remember is that everyone's got that, so no matter what you're presenting, we all have these difficult situations. We all have, family members that are ill or jobs that have been lost, and we're doing our best. And so maybe they're not telling me this, and they don't have to share this with me. So I'm just going to say, okay, right now they're presenting themselves the best they can. If they're being a jerk and this is someone that I care about, it's my friend, I know there's a reason why. I'm going to try is the key word, not to take it personally. And it just makes it easier because then I don't feel like they owe me an explanation. And then, if it's happening for a while, I can choose to just, give them some space and back off and then, come back later and all is good.
Yeah, I think that's so important what you said. Like, I'm sure you've read the 4 Agreements. It's one of my favorite books. But one of the agreements is don't take things personally. And it's hard. It's so hard. But like those moments you can do it, it is so life-changing.
It really is. I was interviewing some people today. So Will and I also host a podcast for Edgar Cayce's ARE. And so I was interviewing a couple today, and we were talking about transitioning yourself and integrating your spirit with your physical world and all of this. And somehow we got on the subject similar of kind of these negative situations. And, it's like I could tell my daughter 1,000 times in a week how beautiful she is. But if one kid at her school says, your ears are kind of big, she's going to start wearing her hair like this, and it doesn't matter because you focus on that negative part. And it's hard not to. It's hard to accept. We were talking about courage, and you have to, courage is so many different things, but one of it is the courage to surrender and the courage to really accept who you are and be okay with it. And once you do that, your confidence is going to build, your capacity to let things roll off is going to grow, your ability to love is going to grow. But it's tough. It can be really tough.
Totally. I think we're wired towards the negative as a survival instinct too, right? Because we're animals and we grew up in, I don't know, if we were cavemen at some point, I don't know, we might have come from aliens, but
that's true. Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah. But it's like we're wired to look for danger. And now in our modern society, it's like, okay, like social media becomes the danger. So like, okay, I have to ask you, like, how old's your daughter, first of all?
She's 14.
Okay. So that's like even in the thick of it, probably on social media, like in high school. So like as a mother, how are you instilling like this self-confidence and courage and everything we've been talking about, looking at others with compassion? Like, how do you instill that in your child?
Well, gosh, it's a constant, right? And she's not quite. She's going to be in high school next year. She has that birthday that's later. So
Okay.
She's 14 before most of the kids. And she's not on social media because I know how toxic that can be. And eventually she will be, but
Okay.
I had her when I was 41. So I'm a little bit of that hover, hover parent. But we actually went out to lunch today. And she's on spring break. So let's go out to fine dining. And we had Oysters Rockefeller. And we had like this 4-course meal. And it was so nice. But we were talking about confidence. And, she's going to high school next year. And she's always been in these little tiny private schools. And it's going to be like 2,000 kids. And, all the things that happen with teenagers. And so it's kind of like, you have to, I'm like, you have to honor yourself. And basically, I don't want to say screw everybody else, but when it comes to being a woman and being in charge of your own body, you absolutely have to do what you are comfortable with, no matter what. And I was, telling her about my experiences as a kid. Like some boy tried to kiss me and he was really cute, but I kicked him in the shin and I ran away. I'm like, you know what? People thought I was weird, but I wasn't ready to be kissed and I didn't know how to handle it. So that's what I did.
That's amazing.
So you have to do what makes you comfortable, because if you let someone else kind of have that power over you, you get used to that. And that becomes your normal and what's acceptable for you. And then you're not going to live the life you wanted to live. It's going to be meh because, well, they're doing this or they want me to go here or do this and I don't really want to. But you have to be able to say no and know that it's okay. Because ultimately, you're the only person that has to live with yourself. And you're not going to be able to make a better impact on the world if your life is meh. And that's what I think we're all here for. We went to the grocery store the other day, and there's this gentleman in the grocery store, and he's the guy that talks for like an hour when he's checking you out. We're kind of in a hurry, and I'm like,
is it Trader Joe's? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. We're kind of in a hurry, and I see him, and I'm like, I just don't have the time. I don't have the patience, and I go to veer out, and then I'm like, this poor guy has nobody to talk to. So I went back in his lane, and it took a little bit longer, but he was smiling and so happy. And I was telling Sienna, my daughter's name, I was telling her, I'm like, here's a perfect example. I didn't feel like going to this, but really, what did it take from me? Nothing, maybe 4 minutes. And what did it do for him? Now he's smiling. He's smiling at the next customer. So maybe that customer is going to smile back, and maybe they'll smile at the person, they're parking next to. And it's just very, it's infectious. And it takes nothing. It really doesn't. And you know what? It was a nice little conversation. I know that he's on, and we're talking about how to select doctors and all of this stuff. No, but it really wasn't. It wasn't anything. But it's that empathy. Knowing this person needs to talk to someone. He's probably very lonely, which is very sad. And these little conversations that he has throughout the day help him. So why not?
I love that story. And gosh, I really love your perspective. It reminds me, I used to have a yoga company. We would run yoga teacher training. And so many people were nervous when we would talk about like adjustments, like adjusting students. And like we would have everyone like raise their hand if they didn't want to be touched, like while they were in child's pose and people's eyes were closed. But like, so this is like for people who have given consent. And we would have classes with like 100 people in them. So there's a lot of opportunities. And the teacher trainees were always like so nervous to like go touch someone. And we used to tell them like, well, maybe that's the only time that person's been touched this week, you know, or this month. Like the power of touch is so powerful. It's like an energy exchange. And if you're coming at it with good intentions, like you could really change someone's day. Like you,
Exactly. Yeah. You know, sometimes those little things, you have no idea what the impact is going to be.
Yeah.
About it, someone, you know, went there, they had this incredible session, they had that energy exchange, someone was, you know, making them feel better. Maybe they got in the car, they were a little more alert, they didn't have that accident that they were gonna have if they were grouchy and just looking down or whatever, you know. So you just don't know the impact that you're having. I think that's so great that you were doing that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I love that you brought that to like that butterfly effect idea. That, you know, that's something that I think about a lot too. Like if I get stuck in traffic or something, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I need to be, oh, gosh, there's this book. I'll put it in the show notes. It's like this tiny little book written by, I'm pretty sure like these couple of old Jewish ladies. And it's just these little stories of that just like make your day. But one that like really stuck with me was like these kids were like going to this like hike at this lake or swimming or something, and they were going to meet their friends there, and they were supposed to meet at like 2 p.m. and it was like everything that could go wrong went wrong. Like I don't know, like their tire burst, and then they had to wait like a long time for a tow truck, and then like the guy was at lunch or whatever to fix the tire or whatever it was. And it was like, and then they hit traffic, and it was like hours late, and their friends had already like met at the trailhead and like gone on. And they're like, well, we've like waited this fault long. Like we've tried to get there. Like, let's just go. And they finally arrived to this trailhead where this lake was, the parking lot. And it was hours late. And they look up, and there's this little kid drowning in the water. And they jumped in and saved him and saved it. And this is a true story. And I have serious goosebumps. And they saved this kid's life. And it's like, thank God all of those things happened, because they were meant to be at that point, at that place, exactly at that moment in time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's wow. That's incredible, and that's so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And it can, we had okay, so not even comparable dramatically, but kind of one of those situations. I went with a good friend to Italy, and we only had a couple of days. I was staying there because I was going to do cooking classes and language classes, but she was just with me for a week. So we had like 2 days left. We got to go to the Vatican, see the Sistine Chapel, and we got to go to the Colosseum and all this stuff. So it's the third day before we have to leave, and we go, and the Vatican's closed. And we're like, oh man, we can't get in. It was some weird holiday or something. We go to the Colosseum. The Colosseum's closed. We're like, what the heck? So we're all kind of disappointed. So we go back the next day, and we're just kind of walking around, and we know we can't get in the Colosseum. But all of a sudden, we hear all these crowds of people just like cheering and stuff, and there's like this gathering. We're like, what's going on? So we go over there, and they're passing the Olympic torch, and that's why the Colosseum. They were. So we're like, oh my gosh, we're watching this whole, you know, and then the crowd leaves, and the guy with the torch is there, so we have pictures holding the Olympic torch now.
Wow.
Like, this is great. So we're like, hey, let's just go over to, you know, Vatican City. We can at least see the outside, the structures and all that. It's the Pope Day, so we're out there, and here comes the Pope, and the little Pope mobile, literally like 4 feet in front of us. I mean, it was roped off, but we were right there, you know, and it was, we would not
so cool.
have either of those experiences had everything not been closed the day before, which we were all bummed about, you know. So yeah, you just never know. You never know. There's a reason for everything.
That's so cool. And I swear, like Italy, like magic things happen in Italy.
Oh, magic. And the food is magic anyways. So.
Oh my gosh. I remember we were in Montepulciano one time, and we were just like walking. It's like a walled city, cobblestone. And we were just walking back from our restaurant, and like in the middle of this plaza at like 11 p.m., there was just this opera. And there were like people sitting around in the dark, and there was this beautiful opera, and we're like, it just felt like something like out of a dream. We're like, only in Italy does this happen. It was so cool.
It's just wonderful, and the people are so nice. And when I finally understood the language, they say nice things. They're just nice people. You know?
Yeah.
So fun. So much
Yeah,
fun.
the food's amazing too, though, like you said. Uh, yeah, amazing. So, is there anything we haven't touched on today that like you really want to get out there into the world?
Gosh, just I want people to have patience with themselves. One of
Hmm.
my favorite books is Illusions by Richard Bach. He's really well known for Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and
Yeah.
but it's a little tiny book. You can read in a day. And it's about it starts out about the Messiah who changes his mind, doesn't want to be the Messiah anymore, and it's this great little book. And part of it, it's about these two biplane pilots, and one of them was this ex-Messiah guy, and kind of their interactions. And so the ex-Messiah guy gives the other guy a book, and whenever you open it, what you need to hear that day will be on those pages. And so, kind of the way I'm thinking of things now, there's one quote that I think we all need. And he opened the book and it said, "What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls the butterfly." And I think we are all getting ready to become the butterflies.
That's really beautiful.
Until then, things are kind of crazy right now, but I think that's the plan, anyways.
I mean, so when you say that, do you think it's because like humanity and consciousness are rising and like 5D Earth is coming, or do you think we're just, yeah, like interpret that in your view?
Well, I think yes, first of all, but I think it's always been like that on an individual level. I think people are afraid of death or whatever, and then they have this moment and they become the butterfly. But I think now it's happening en masse. And I think it's kind of scary. You hear about how all the systems have to collapse before we can have that birth. And, births are always messy and ugly. And I think that's what's happening now. I think now this all is becoming so much more mainstream. And it's interesting. So for New Reality TV, we have some certain rules, and one of the rules is we don't have any political content on there, not left, not right, not in between. And it's because we want it to be a place for everyone. So if you're on one side where you get this vibe and you're in it, you're going to love it. But if you're on the other side where you think this is all a bunch of crap, for lack of better words, you really need it. So maybe you'll hop on and be like, okay. So I think that we're just kind of muddling ourselves together and realizing that. Right now, we're so polarized and we feel so different, but we need to realize that we're not that different. We're all in our little cocoons right now.
I love that. Beautiful. What a beautiful message to leave people with. You are so amazing. I'm sad Will was sick, but I'm also like everything happens for a reason, that you were here by yourself, because I feel like we went in conversations that like we wouldn't have otherwise. And it was so lovely to just like hear your perspective on everything. So yeah, if you want to just take a moment and kind of plug your stuff, you've got the cool podcast, the network, all the things.
Yeah, we're really excited. We have realized that in this lifetime, we're probably just the messengers. We don't have the message. We're not writing the messages, but we're putting it out there. So our podcast, you can find all of the information on that. Check out all the episodes on skepticmetaphysicians.com. And then if you want to see shows from literally all over the world of people with these wonderful messages, that's newrealitytv.com. And we have, Thai Buddhist monk exploring sacred spaces all over, Thailand and that area. We have a Norse shaman. We have people in Portugal and in Ireland, a mystic in Ireland. It's beautiful, and they're connecting together too, and creating this really beautiful community. So if that feels good to you, if you want to be part of that, come check it out.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Karen. It was just so wonderful to talk to you. If you are listening and there's someone you feel like could use this episode, please send it to them. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all the things. Let's help lift humanity and that consciousness level. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.